Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hamilton's. How many people have not been here before? Well, that's relatively few. I guess that's good for Hamilton's. Anyway, I want to welcome everybody here for the biweekly press briefing. Some of us just got back from the International Shopping Center convention, which I might add, it's hard to know how to measure success because it's rare that you actually close a deal there. But you continue talking to retailers, and the one thing that was very apparent this year is the number of retailers who really want to come to the District of Columbia. We had one retailer who came in, and I won't mention the site or the retailer, but said, I want to make sure that I dispel this idea that we don't want to be at X. We absolutely want to be at X. We are 110% committed to being at X. I said, okay. Anyway, I'm delighted to be here today with the members of the Business Regulatory Reform Task Force. And I know co-chair David Goldblatt is here. And we may be joined, hopefully we'll be joined by Nick Majette, who, of course, has now become the Chief Administrative Officer for Prince George's County and is already dealing with the challenges that are associated with that. So we hope that he'll be able to join us. Some of you will recall that I created the Business Regulatory Reform Task Force in February 2013 with the goal being to transform the district into the most business-friendly city in the country. As you know, we have, I thought I had it with me, but I guess I left it down there. The 5-year economic development plan has as one of its visions becoming the most business-friendly city in the nation. And this is one of the initiatives that was designed to move us forward in that direction. I asked the task force to determine how to help our business community respond to a changing marketplace and evolving regulatory landscape here in the District of Columbia. And I expected that in pursuit of these goals, the district would continue to fulfill our role in protecting workers, consumers, as well as the environment here in the city. In short, I asked the task force for a lot. And with the leadership of Nick and David, they in fact delivered on those promises. When you include the expert representation from across the business community and professionals from several different growth sectors and business organizations as well, and then when you put them with our district government staff, it's reasonable, quite reasonable to expect them to have produced great things. The task force report that I welcome and accept this morning has 16 recommendations along with literally dozens of action items associated with that. The task force knew how anxious I was to get this report. Their ideas and suggestions, and in fact, they gave me an executive summary of the recommendations back in March. And frankly, because some of them were so good, we moved immediately to start implementing those recommendations. One of those is the One City Business Portal, which we have in the budget this year for 2015, and we think will be a great way for businesses and residents to access all agency-related business services from a single login point, and even to do so remotely if they choose to do it that way. Again, it's included in the 2015 budget. We've already started the process, so it will be a continuation once the 2015 budget year begins in October. Again, the action items, and I won't go into all the detail of those this morning. There are literally dozens of those, and we think they will become part of the approach as we move forward. I'm confident that these recommendations are going to make a big difference in how the city operates, or continue to make a difference, because we are increasingly a business-friendly climate here in the District of Columbia. I want to ask the members who are here today if you would stand so we can express our appreciation to you, members of the task force, to stand so we can say thank you very much for what you all did.
With
With that having been said, I'm going to ask David Goldblatt and Nick Majette to come up. I will let them choose for themselves in what order they would like to speak. Since they were co-chairs, I'm sure they can figure out the not-so-difficult task of who speaks first and who speaks second. So, David and Nick, come on up.
I want to start by thanking you, Mr. Mayor, for putting together this task force. It was necessary, and I think we actually did implement some good ideas, and if we get those into action, we're really in a good place here in the district. But I also want to recognize, as the mayor did, all the people that put the countless hours into coming to task force meetings, going to working group meetings, and coming up with the recommendations. The fact that they spent better part of a year doing this and the dedication they showed is going to be clear in the way we're going to make this a better city. So if you're here, please stand up, but I do want to recognize everyone, at least on the private sector. Nick will recognize the government side of the task force, but Charles Barber, Michael Thompson, Veronica Davis, Kathy Hollinger, Stephen Marcus, David Briggs, Michael Howard, Rachel Holt, Mary Lynch, Karen Campbell, Margaret Singleton, Cheryl Hamilton, Lloyd Jordan, Marla Brionic, and Angela Franco. All of them put so much time and effort into coming to the task force and coming up with the recommendations. But not only that, we got great support from the district government, especially from DCRA. Robbie Sabakan, who's now the interim director, Eric Rogers, Jill Bird, Jacqueline Nazette, LaShawn Dickey, and others all helped ensuring that this task force got to the point where we are here today talking about recommendations. This was a complete team effort, and one that I am very proud to be part of. Bringing the government and the private sector together to come up with these recommendations was something, when we talked to other jurisdictions, they were amazed that we were doing, because they didn't do it that way. They just talked amongst themselves. Here we had everyone at the table. And I think when you look at the report, it's clearly a first step. This is not a panacea, but a roadmap to ensuring that D.C. is an easier place to do business. And clearly, as Nick is here, we need to hurry up and implement before other jurisdictions steal our ideas. But we have clear working group recommendations. We really focused on business licenses and building permits. And I think with business licenses, we can clearly see that to attract and retain current business owners and attract new entrepreneurs, we have to have tools available to them to start their business and getting your license in a one-stop effort and not going to multiple buildings. And yes, DCRA and OTR are down at 4th Street and 2 buildings right next to each other, but in this day and age, there's no reason for a person to have to go down to 4th Street to start a business in the District of Columbia and walk between buildings. We have the opportunity here to use technology and use our ability of creating sister agencies and rather than siloed agencies to really promote the district. In regards to building permits, you know, having plan reviews done in coordinated efforts with all the sister agencies will definitely help reduce the redundancies we have seen, as well as ensure timely review, so that when we talk about having multiple cranes in the air, we can have the opportunity to get more cranes in the air, get those cranes up faster, get those cranes down quicker, so that we have businesses coming into the district. And, focusing on simple items. These were things that we talked about a lot in the workforce, in the task force work. Updating policies and procedures of our agencies, using technology, staffing and training will ensure business development in the district will continue to grow and prosper. And as Nick, I think, will talk about the one-stop portal, which is a great opportunity not only for district businesses to be able to go to one place and get their licenses and get their permits, but it's a great way for the district to look at what new entrees businesses are coming to the district and what do we have to prepare for those new types of businesses. What workforce training do we have to do for those new businesses coming in? What sort of tax benefits do we have to provide? What are the policy changes we have to do? And this is an ongoing process. As I said when I think we had our first press conference when this was announced by the mayor, that we are starting this. The report is now in. Now the point is to all of us work together to implement it. So I thank everyone that was on the task force. I thank the mayor for putting together this task force and entrusting me with it. But I think we have created something that we can really move and work for the district. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mayor, thank you. David, thank you. I think David actually said it all, and he kind of stole my talking points. We were supposed to separate them, but he just read them all. So, and one thing I'd like to clear up, because there may be one misconception. The task force did not recommend that the mayor replace me as director. Okay, just in case you were thinking that. That wasn't.
It was him.
Yeah, and David, you said there's a fear that the county may steal the recommendations. We already have. Okay. In fact, the Prince George's County actually came to DCRA about 2.5 years ago and actually looked at our one-stop permitting center and replicated it. So it's already out there. So actually, when I went out to Prince George's County, as many of you know, I became the chief administrative officer 3 weeks ago, and they have actually replicated Department of Consumer Regulatory Affairs one-stop center. So I was really pleased to see that happen. But I'd like to thank the mayor for first appointing me as director. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had. And thanks for appointing David as co-chair. We worked together very well on this task force. And I actually transitioned into this task force from the I was on the Comprehensive Housing Strategy Task Force as well, so I transitioned from that task force onto this one. And we did great things with that task force as well, and the mayor committed a lot of money to affordable housing, so I was really thankful that he did that. But this task force, I think, did great things in recommending certain things to the mayor. And the One City portal, I think, was, in my opinion, one of the greatest recommendations, because one of the common complaints that the mayor heard from the business community was that it took too long to get a permit from the Department of Consumer Regulatory Affairs. It took too long to get a business license, took too long to get a certificate of occupancy. And some of those things, Mr. Mayor, I started as soon as I became director. I started streamlining the process to make it easier to do business in the District of Columbia. And I think that based on the agency's grading from the gradeDC.gov initiative, the agency has maintained an A average for at least the past 12 months. And I think it is testament to the great work that the agency has done and the tremendous employees that we have at the agency. They're doing a phenomenal job. And I was supposed to recognize the DCRA representatives on the task force, and David already did that, but I'm going to do it again because it's that important. Rabia Sabakan, is Robbie here? Oh, is he here? Oh, he's not here. Okay. Rabia Sabakan, who is the interim director, and during the course of the task force was a chief building official, so he played an instrumental role in getting building permits and certificates of occupancies issued in a timely manner. Katrina Jones, who is the chief of staff, is here. She did a tremendous job in helping to coordinate and being a participant on the task force. Purnima Garda, who is our chief technology officer, who came from Octo and already had a working knowledge of the agency before she came over about a year or so ago. Has done a tremendous job working with the task force and a tremendous job in her overall performance at the agency as IT director. Matt Orleans, who came to us from the council and has served as our public information officer as well as our legislative liaison, has done a tremendous job. Jill Berg, who was the glue that held the task force together. Is Jill here? And she's over there. And she served as my administrative assistant as well, but has always done a phenomenal job. Jacqueline Noisette, the manager of our Small Business Resource Center. Jonathan Williams, LaShawn Dickey, and Helder Gill, who started off with the task force but is now with the Metropolitan Police Department. Is he here? Helder, okay. So I'd like to recognize all of those individuals who did a tremendous job working with the task force. And let's give them a round of applause. So I think, Mr. Mayor, we have compiled a list of recommendations that I hope you put into place that will make the excellent. Will make the district a more business-friendly jurisdiction, because it's certainly business-friendly, has become more business-friendly under your administration, and I think it will be even more business-friendly, and the recommendations will further streamline the processes at DCRA. So I wanted to thank you for your leadership there, and thank you again.
Are there any questions from the media who are here? There is one? Okay.
And I apologize if you said this. Can you talk about the cost of this and when this website, the one-stop portal, would be open for business for people to use?
Yeah, I'm going to ask both David and Nick to speak to that, but we're working on it now. We're using funds from Fiscal Year 14 to get the process started. I'm not absolutely sure, guys, when it will be completed and ready for use, but it'll probably cost us somewhere in the neighborhood, ultimately, of about $5 million to be able to fully effectuate it. Anything else?
And actually, we've already begun the first phase. There are two phases of the portal. The first phase we've already begun. And ultimately, what it will do is to take 8 agencies, which all have a potential role in a building permit or a license or certificate of occupancy. Currently, you may have to go to 8 separate sites on the D.C. government website and access each agency. This portal will bring in all 8 agencies, and it will be sort of a one-stop. You go to the website, and it'll ask you certain questions: what kind of permit, what kind of license you want, and it will route you to the right agencies. And there will be some scripts so that it'll ask you what kind of license do you want, what kind of business it is, and then it'll coordinate all the 8 agencies. So it's a one-stop portal. First phase we're actually working on now in this fiscal year, and the second phase will begin working in fiscal year FY15.
Don't you like the we? Even though he's gone to Prince George's County, it's still a we.
He's doing the same thing there.
Yeah. And Nick, it'll always be a we. Any other questions on this? Well, again, we look forward to implementing as many of these recommendations as we have an opportunity to, but I think they transcend leadership. They really are recommendations that have come from the business community, come from the leaders within government, and I think need to be moved on as quickly as possible. And, of course, we will do that during our time. So thank you, guys. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions or comments on any other issues today? Sam?
Yes, Mayor. I wanted to ask about the trash can issue. It seems to be coming up quite a bit, and a number of people have received these the new cans, but they haven't taken the old ones away. And then there was some question now about whether the city is actually serious about recycling the cans, because apparently a lot of them have turned up at trash transfer stations.
Yeah, I'm going to ask City Administrator Lou and DPW Director Howland to come up. I'm not happy about it either, Sam. I'm not happy about the way this has gone. You know, we set out to do something good for the people of this city, and people have gotten new trash cans and new recycle bins or cans all across the city. In fact, one of the things we did was we doubled the capacity of the recycling cans in order to encourage people more to do recycling. So the piece of it that we really have not done a good job on is the picking up of the cans and then getting those cans taken care of in an appropriate fashion, especially consistent with our own recycling goals here in the city. So I'm going to ask Alan, I'm going to ask Bill if they would come up and talk with more specificity about how this is moving along and when we will be completed with this process.
Good morning. And before I answer that question, I just want to thank the mayor. This is National Public Works Week, and so the mayor has proclaimed this is DC Public Works Week for the district. And one of the things that we did was honor the employees for length of service, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of service. And this morning I recognized one of our trash truck drivers who had 52 years of service with DPW. And this evening I'll be honoring another employee who has over 50 years of service. So I'm really pleased about that. Now, to Sam's question, as the mayor stated, we did not do as well of a job in collecting the cans as we should have, as we had hoped to do. And it's sort of been a struggle to collect them. It didn't. There were more cans out there. There are a whole bunch of reasons, and they'll sound like excuses, so I don't want to say that. We just haven't collected them the way that we wanted to do. We are now caught up on the collection of super cans. As a matter of fact, as recently as yesterday, we ran 500 complaints. Less than 100 of those complaints were their cans still there. So we had 10 routes, 50 complaints per route. And as I said, less than 100 of them were there. The cans that we have collected is around 71,000 so far in the city. 32,000 of them roughly have left the city. About 5,000 of them were sent to the waste-to-energy facility in Fairfax, thrown away, and were not recycled. 26,000 of them were recycled, and that's about over 80% of the cans have been recycled already. The remaining, whatever, 32,000 minus from 71,000 is, whatever that number is, all of those will be recycled. So overall, when we finish this project, 93% of the cans will be recycled. And so they're stacked up at Oakey Street, Benning Road Transfer Station, South Capitol Street. They're all over, and it's a tedious process, but we're committed to stripping them down so that we can recycle those cans.
You indeed decided that you wouldn't recycle some of them, is that?
Yeah, right, because we were behind on the collection, and a lot of people were complaining about they're still on my street. We needed to get rid of them. What I did was we had dedicated crews that were doing the recycling, and what I did was I asked my trash crews, when they finished their routes, just go back on the route and collect the cans that were in public space, that were either upside down or had Take Me stickers. So there were about 5,300 of those cans that were put in the trash compactors, and when they got compacted, it became difficult to recycle them. And so we just said that we were going to take that loss and we wouldn't recycle them. But as I said, when we finish the project, over 93% of those cans will be recycled.
So what do you have to do to strip them? You have to take the wheels off, take the lids off? I mean, what is that process?
Right, so we have to remove the lids, we have to remove the bar, the lift bar that you see across there, and then the hard part is the wheel bar. That's solid steel, and for good reason. So it's what holds the cans together on the bottom. We need a grinder to grind those off. We can't hammer them off. We're using a saber saw. Reciprocating saw, we're using grinders, we're using hammers and everything like that. It's just a tedious process to get that bar off. Once we get that bar off, then we stack them and then ship them out.
Mr. Mayor, I have a quick question for you. You know, folks in the city are required to recycle. That many have gotten huge fines, and now we're hearing that 7% of the cans weren't recycling. How can you make that judgment call that the city simply doesn't want to recycle, yet folks living in the city have to by law?
Well, yeah, let me start by saying we clearly want to recycle. When you look at our sustainable DC plan, it's clear that recycling is an important part of that. I wish we could say today 100% were recycled, but they weren't. I don't want to say 7% is de minimis, but obviously the 93% is the preponderance of it. I regret that this happened, and I don't want to send a message to anybody in the city that recycling is unimportant, because it is hugely important.
One of the other things, and to your point right there, we do issue fines for recycling violations to commercial facilities. We do not issue fines to residential. So the 105,000 customers at DPW services, we have never issued a fine for recycling. We issue fines for other things, but we don't issue fines for recycling. Our recycling rate is about 28% for the residential, for our 105,000 customers, 28%. As a result of issuing those new cans in April, we had a 15% increase in our recycling rate from what we had April of 2013. And in March, we had a 17% increase of recycling. What I'm hoping that is that 28%, what I want to get it up to is about 35%. The law says 45%. The goal is 80% recycling, and for the city, and that's where we're headed. And when we issue the waste study later to the mayor in June, we're going to have some different strategies about how we get to zero waste.
Of all this, originally there was a multi-year schedule for replacing all these cans, and it became a schedule that was supposed to stretch into summer, and it seems that in the end all of these cans were delivered in a time frame that ended just before the election. And Councilmember Chase says she believes that rush created a lot of these problems. Why was there a rush, and did it have anything to do with the election?
No, it didn't. And there were people who knew we were getting, in fact, we had in the budget, the 14 budget had a number of these cans already in there, and people became aware that we were going to do this, and people wanted the cans. So, you know, those who would impute some political motive to this, you know, they need to go back and rethink that because it's simply untrue. What we wanted to do, frankly, is to try to be able to get the new cans to people as quickly as we possibly could. And that is what motivated us, being able to get the cans out the door. If there was some political motive, we could have picked neighborhood X or, you know, some particular precinct or something like that. And we didn't do any of that. We tried to get them out to everybody we possibly could in the city as quickly as we could because people wanted it. And if you look at the response to getting a new can, because that's not what we've talked about today, people have overwhelmingly been happy about getting a new can. The issue, of course, is removing the old cans. But ask some of those who've gotten new cans, you know, how they feel about it. And I think you'll get an overwhelmingly positive response, especially with the increased size of the recycle cans.
Bill could address this. How is there a plan to get all these cans to the residents in the span of a few months, but no plan to take the cans they didn't want?
Well, we didn't think that in the last time that we'd have distributed cans, and we distributed cans in around 2008 and 2009 in the twice-a-week collection area, and those were the green trash cans. And then in 2005, we distributed cans for recycling. That was where we went to the single-stream system. And then in 2001, we did super can distribution. We never collected cans in any meaningful way before. We did not. And how cans were collected was when people just put a sign on there and told the trash people take the can with the trash. We thought people would sort of try to hold on to their cans a little longer until they figured out, you know what, I really don't need this can. And more cans started coming out faster than we had anticipated. And people just said, well, I really don't need to keep 2 cans. And as a matter of fact, you can take the other 3 that I have as well. So we just did not anticipate the demand to come as quickly as it did on removing those cans.
Mr. Howland, what about those two people? I understand two people were arrested and had to go to court last week for theft. Do you think that should be prosecuted given the situation?
I don't even understand. I don't know anything about the charges. I don't know anything about it.
Theft. They were accused of stealing.
I don't know anything
stealing
about
city trash cans that apparently were going to be recycled.
Dr. Ron Machin.
I don't have any comment about that.
Ray, do you have any comment on that? Two people who are facing criminal charges for repurposing
I don't
these?
know the details of it either. I don't want to comment on something about which I don't know the details. Mike?
Just one last point of clarification. Just the issue of the trash crews putting the cans into the trucks. That was on your orders to have them. Can you explain what led to that?
Yeah, that was strictly on my decision right there. Because we were getting a number of complaints about that the trash cans were still on the street. People were saying that they've been calling. It's taken weeks for us to get to it. I just said, that's just one of the consequences of trying to get them up as quickly as possible is that we just put them in the trash bag, trash trucks. They were compacted and then became too mangled to be recycled. And yeah, that was my decision.
The Blitz.
I did.
Did that directive originate with you, or did?
It was whatever it took to make the story go away, which it won't go away.
And you're probably wondering if that meant you would go away too, Mark, but...
Is that the correct figure for the overtime?
130,000.
I don't know. Linda, do you know what that number is? I don't know what the number is.
Projected, but we don't know until it's over.
Right. I don't know what that number is, but I can get you that number.
All right. Now that we've covered all things trash, do we have other issues that you all would like to talk about?
Can you say anything more about Las Vegas? And did you bring how many deals? Is there anything to report?
No, it's rare, Mike, that you come back with a deal having been closed. I've been there now since I was council chair, and of course, my fourth year as mayor. And you meet with lots of people. We had meetings starting on Sunday. They ran all day on Monday. Meetings yesterday, and there probably will be a few, at the today. I think there were probably 70 to 80 meetings that were held with various and sundry retailers. The one thing that was very evident to me is that the interest, the demand, the desire to be in the District of Columbia at this point. I cited one example of that from a retailer who wanted to make it absolutely clear that his company wanted to be at a particular site. But we had people coming in. For example, we've been focusing on the Strand Theater, which has been closed since 1959. The city has invested about $1 million to upgrade the building, and I participated in 2 meetings with 2 retailers who are very interested in going to that site. The district is a very hot commodity at this stage, and it was very evident at this meeting, the level of interest. Lots of people came by, lots of people met with us, and lots of interest in being able to either expand in the District of Columbia or to open up a business for the first time in the city. I know, Kathy, you'll be happy with the interest we had from restaurants, people who either already are located here and want to expand or interested in coming to the city. Mm-hmm.
Jonathan O'Connell reported that one of the companies you talked to was Bass Pro. That raised the questions about them coming to the district and possibly selling guns. Can you tell us anything about those discussions?
What company?
Bass Pro Shop. It's a sporting goods store. Were you involved in any of that discussion?
No, I was not. I was not in that meeting. But I think we're not going to have people coming here selling guns. That's just not going to happen.
So you do not want any retailers coming to the district to open up a gun store?
No. That's spelled N-O. Any other? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, there's been a report that a deal on the DC United soccer stadium is close. Maybe Alan could talk more about this, but how close are you, and is there a chance the council might get some legislation in the near future?
Yes, there is a chance. We've been working on this assiduously, as you know. Come on up here, Alan. We've been working on this assiduously, and we have now for some time had control of a little over 88% of the land. Negotiations have continued with the other two landholders, the folks who own the salvage yard, and then Mark Ein, who owns another piece of property down there, to try to come to some accommodation. And we're continuing with those discussions at this stage. You know, the prospect is always available to us, as you well know, of using eminent domain. We would like not to do that, but that option is always available to us to be able to move forward with this project.
Is there a timetable in which you might consider using that?
Yeah, so we expect the package to the council to be submitted by the close of business this Friday. And in order for it to go through our process, which is this thing called IDIQ, where all the various members of the executive branch signs off on things, we really need to get that in play by Friday morning. So we have we're buttoning down everything at this point. We're down to the kind of very, very fine, minute things. There's been back and forth between me and with the DC United management team. So I think we've made some great progress. And we're hopeful that all the last kind of micro things are going to get all ironed out between tonight and sometime tomorrow.
Would that still go to council with that 88% figure locked down?
Yeah, currently that's what we have. We have 88%, which is land that's held by the district, by Anchorage a real estate company, and by Pepco, and we haven't been able to consummate a transaction with the other parties yet.
What are the other parties other than the trash?
The Super Salvage is a trash site, and then Mark Ein has a piece of property on that site.
If you're not able to strike a deal with it by Friday?
Well, we wouldn't be able to go to eminent domain until legislation goes through the entire cycle. So I think we're talking about probably towards the end of the year. Before the second reading, and then, but when the council comes back from its legislative summer recess, probably it would be probably around the end of the fiscal year, right?
Have council members seen a lot of these final details? Some of the ones I spoke with this week say that they have not seen any indication of what might be coming to them.
Yeah, we had a series of meetings with council members several months ago, and we were planning to touch base with a couple of council members in the next few days. Some of them have called and talked to us about getting together. And the good thing is that many of the changes that we've negotiated on the business side were basically suggestions that were proposed to us by the council members several months ago. Yeah. There's a bunch of things that they had thought that they were more comfortable with, and they thought maybe we should look at it from a different direction, and we took it to heart, and we actually engaged the various stakeholders here, property owners, and the team in basically modifying some of the provisions.
How would you characterize the talks with Ein and Super Salvage? Are they progressing? Are they at impasse? Are they ongoing?
Yeah, I don't want to negotiate with myself on this. I thought we were making progress, and then it's kind of come to I wouldn't say a total stalemate, but it's we're not in agreement on the numbers.
Is there any pressure that you kind of hear the clock ticking? And Mr. Mayor, maybe you can address this. As the outgoing mayor, is there any concern that you don't have a lot of time left to get this locked down the way that you wanted to see it done originally?
Well, I think the biggest issue for us is being able to negotiate a deal on those two pieces of property. The rest of it, and Alan and his team have had a lot of discussions with council members, so council members have had an opportunity to be able to know how this thing is unfolding. He indicated some of the changes that have been made were suggestions from, recommendations from council members. So it really comes down to this piece of property, and I don't think it's a ticking clock as much as it is whether there's just a steadfast, place that the landowners have come that they won't move from. And, we'll kind of know that. It wouldn't be the first time. I mean, the city went through the same thing with National Stadium, with some of the land that was there. And we went through this with Skyland also. Pardon? Yeah, and the convention center also, as Alan points out. So it wouldn't be the first time the city has exercised eminent domain. But I think we'll probably know very soon whether it's likely to be a coming together of the minds on this. And I don't think it has anything to do with the ticking clock. I think it has to do with how much we're willing to pay and how much we think the land is worth. That's in question. And frankly, to be honest with you, there is a real gap between what's being asked at this stage and the valuation information that we have of the property. Yes.
Last week, Alexander's committee stripped money from the UMC replacement hospital. She's typically been an ally of yours on the council. Were you surprised by that move? Have you talked with her about it?
Yeah, I don't know why she did it, to tell you the truth. I heartily support the hospital. What we're trying to do, obviously, is create a really contemporary healthcare presence on the east end of the city. Because ultimately it would be a hospital plus clinics that would be involved in this as well. And, it's not only the money, some of the money was stripped, it's what's being done with the money also. So there'll be continuing discussions around this. We're going to try to turn it around. But for those who need to know, I'm as fervently committed to building that hospital on the east end of the city as I've ever been. And I frankly hope that the people of Ward 7 and Ward 8 will stand up and make their feelings known, especially to Councilmember Alexander, since she represents Ward 7. Yes.
This is the last question.
So there's still a lot of talk on the council about closing down DC General, and I know you guys are in the middle of this campaign to move families out and find other options for them. Can you just give us an update on the campaign itself and what your response is to their calls for it just to be shut down?
Yeah, well, I've had conversations with Councilmember Graham, several conversations about this. First of all, I certainly believe that D.C. General is no place for families and children to be raised. But what I've said to Councilmember Graham is that, it's one thing to stand up and say it should be closed. It's another to have a concrete plan to be able to get that done. And what's needed, frankly, is every council member to stand up and say, we need to take some responsibility across the city. We can't have people saying, well, that's a great idea, just do it over there, wherever over there may be. In order to effectively and responsibly close D.C. General, there has got to be a set of alternatives, because there will always be families who are in crisis, and we need to have a place to be able to put them. If you look back at the history of this, it's kind of moved around from one place to the other. It was a D.C. Village before it became D.C. General, and then D.C. General, and you got some of the same conditions having been replicated there. I think the other issue you raised was our 500 Families in 100 Days initiative, and that is moving along. We have now between 275 and 300 units that have been identified. A number of them have already been inspected, and in some cases, families have already started to move into them. And we are urging, as much as we can, landlords to step up and say they would be willing to work with us on this program. The rapid rehousing program is the one that will be used, is being used. I won't say will be, is being used. It pays for, in the first tranche, 4 months of housing for families. But then we can extend it another 4 months and then another 4 months after that. And then it's going to be, people are being paired also with our effort with the faith community, and that is to have a congregation, be it a synagogue, a mosque, or, a church, whatever the case may be, to step up as a part of their social justice mission and say they will take on responsibility for helping this family make decisions. I think what needs to be recognized is that almost 50% of the people who are at DC General, the head of the family, if you will, is someone between 18 and 24 years of age. And many of them have never been in situations where they've had to make some of these complicated financial decisions and life decisions that face everybody every day. So that's where the faith community will be helpful to us in helping bring these families along. Because a lot of times people fall off the edge, not because of the absence of resources, but the absence of the wherewithal to be able to make those decisions. When you think about it, a lot of our families are TANF eligible, they're Medicaid eligible, they're food stamp eligible, and they get other benefits from the city as well. The issue is making sure that as we move them into these apartment units, that they also have the supports that we can provide. And it won't be just the faith community. It's our social workers and case managers in DHS that will be working with them as well. All right. Thank you all very much.
Good afternoon.